Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Heim podcast. I'm Emma.
I'm Travis.
All right. This was an excellent episode, an emergency episode, you could say.
Serious emergency. Things are happening in college football. It's a big deal. Texas OU leaving, the Big 12. What does this mean? What happens to TCU? We're not equipped to discuss this.
No.
We had to bring in an expert.
The big
our
guns.
Friend, the big guns, our friend Greg Tepper, managing editor of Dave Campbell's Texas Football, available in magazine form, pretty much anywhere magazines are sold, but also TexasFootball.com. Greg is an awesome guy. One, he's just a funny guy, so
Yeah, he's
I really
great.
love talking with him. Super knowledgeable, all things football, not just college football, but also high school football, because that's they do over 1,400 high school teams that they do profiles for every year. Really fascinating stuff. So Greg's awesome. Really appreciate him coming. We talk a little bit about horses, a little bit about Ted Lasso. So it's not just football, but he did a great job explaining kind of everything that was going on. And so,
Right.
So we really appreciate him. Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Thank you for listening again. If you want to support this podcast directly, patreon.com, patreon.com/HeimTime Podcast. What does that mean? What is a Patreon?
A Patreon is a way to directly support this podcast. So if you like what you're hearing and you want to hear more of it and keep it going, it's $5 a month. And I know you have other subscriptions that are probably more than that.
That you forgot about?
That you forgot about, that you're like, oh, I should have canceled it. So cancel those and then just go ahead and go on patreon.com/HeimTime Podcast and support us for $5 a month. And we'll get to keep having awesome guests like Greg Tepper. He actually preferred to be called Tepper. Tep.
Yeah.
And so anyway, if you want to keep this going, directly support us that way. We have some new followers this week that we want to shout out to, which is really cool.
Shout outs. We do this every week at the start of the podcast.
Woohoo.
Patreon shout outs. If
Dun,
you
dun,
are
dun.
an awesome person who supports this podcast, we are going to say your name, basically. Richard Miller. Shout out.
Great dude.
Great dude. I think his Instagram is Fitness Freak Richard Miller.
Oh,
He
yeah.
messaged on Patreon about getting us into some boxing classes.
Oh, really? I've
Which
never
sounds
boxed.
intimidating. But he was a big fan of the Neen episode, and
Cool.
so thank you, Richard Miller. Appreciate it. Mike, don't have a last name here,
Mike.
but I do know that Mike follows us on Twitter, on our
Awesome.
business Twitter. And said I don't think he lives local, but he's like, I can't come to the restaurant. Support you guys on Patreon.
Oh,
Great dude. Be
that's
like
awesome.
Mike. Bree, I won't say her last name, but do you know this person?
I love Bree.
We love Bree.
She was my maid of honor, not matron.
Yeah, she is.
So she's freak.
Great. And she has supported this podcast emotionally since day one, and then now financially.
Yeah,
So we really appreciate that.
love her.
If you are a successful young man in the Los Angeles area, maybe we'll do a little matchmaking.
Yeah,
We'll fix it up.
message us.
She's a
gorge.
beautiful young lady, speaks multiple languages, and has a lot going
Has
on.
a master's
Yeah.
degree.
Yeah. So,
She's gonna hate us for this.
hey, you support us on Patreon, we will hook you up on dates through any means necessary. And that goes for anyone, but especially Bree. So shout out all of our new patrons. We really appreciate you. We got to pay Paul somehow. Nexum Studios, shout out. Thank you for listening. This is Emergency Football Podcast. Greg Tepper, Dave Campbell's Football. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Good evening from Fort Worth, Texas. It's slow here in the heat. We're down Main Street.
Hello. Welcome to another awesome episode of the Heim Podcast.
Yay! Welcome.
Yay. Today,
Am I allowed to cheer?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah. Okay, I won't do that yet.
You can't talk yet.
Okay.
Today is a awesome, exciting, special guest. You may have seen him, very handsome on Fox Sports Southwest,
Is there somebody else
on
here?
Bally Sports,
They coming in the door?
on other regional sports shows. And he is our friend, Greg Tepper.
Yay.
Well, thank you for that all too kind intro. And I do appreciate you saying Bally Sports because I have had to correct myself about 100,000 times and I have yet to be on their air yet.
Yeah.
And I just know I'm going to have to put it in the swear jar. I'm going to call it the old name, which shall not be named.
Yeah. I may have screwed that up, but
Sounded good.
managing editor, is that your
right.
official title,
Yes.
of Dave Campbell's Texas Football. So this is somewhat of an emergency podcast.
I love it.
Things are happening, so to speak, and we had to bring in a ringer, bring in an expert to explain this. What's going on? How do I process my feelings?
Yeah. And there's a lot of feelings because if there's one thing that gets people in their feelings, it's college football.
Yeah.
It's
True.
like nothing gets people revved up like this.
Yeah.
Like
It's
Yeah.
like a religion or something.
Yeah.
it's like a
Yeah.
religious war. It's like a
Yeah.
political war,
Yeah.
but it's like all of these things come together. And every, this last time we went through this was in 2010, 2011, around then.
Right.
And man, like you just remember all the feelings,
Yeah.
like all the feelings from all different sides about like, I went to Missouri.
Yeah.
And so part of it was that there was like, I was right in the middle of it because
Yeah,
my
yeah.
school was changing conferences. And
2011?
yeah, 2011.
Yeah.
And it was just all of these, like, you just say things that once they come out of your mouth, you're just like, why would you say that about college football, guys? It's 19-year-olds throwing a leather ball.
Yeah.
Let's cool
It's a
it.
thing.
But people love to talk about, and there's nothing people love more than college football off season too.
Yeah. Oh,
Because
yeah.
because when we're not playing it, we like to think about it. When we're not-
Anticipation.
Exactly.
Yeah,
right.
The and if you want an example of what Greg's talking about, just look at his Twitter mentions.
Oh boy. That's why I've tried my best to like put out really milquetoast opinions about it. Just be like, I think that college realignment's the friends that we made along the way. You know
Right.
what I mean? Because I just like, you can't say anything
Yeah.
without being construed of being, pro one thing or
Right.
anti another thing. It just,
Yeah.
Sounds
Just
like
all-
the world today.
every,
In
yeah,
general.
ain't that the truth. But hey, everybody, let me issue a positioning statement.
Yeah.
Guys, it'll be okay. It's just college football. It's not going to impact your life all that much.
Well,
that's true.
Some people
Texas,
Yeah,
some
that's
people
true.
feel differently. I think one of the biggest things, and then even we're talking about college football, and that's also probably the focus today. But serious, even down to like 1A, 2A high school football, you get a lot of the "Why do you hate my team?" Rhetoric.
You do.
No, I mean you specifically.
No, oh yeah, no, I do, and it's fun because as a journalist, and I want to make sure I choose my phrasing really carefully here. You just want to know people are reading,
Right.
You just want to know
Yeah,
that
yeah,
people that it matters to people. We had somebody literally come into our office, and like because of an article we wrote online on our website about a high school football team.
Wow.
She was extremely upset about it. And, I talked with the writer afterwards and I told him, hey, look, I don't think you did anything wrong. I think that was a good arc.
Right.
I edited it, so I had seen it. But it's one of those things like it's important to remember to be intentional about what you're saying and stuff because what you're writing matters. And that's cool. If you were just screaming into the ocean,
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter. And so so I view that as part and parcel of my job. I know I'm going to get yelled at. I know people are going to say, you're an idiot, this and that. But at least they're reading and at least they're interested in what we're talking about. And if that happens, then there's a lot worse, lives than that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I again, the seriousness of high school
So
and college
serious.
football.
It is. It's and the high school stuff, because it is and that's the thing with both high school and college football, it's so personal to people.
Yeah.
Right.
Like you
Oh,
feel
yeah.
like that is the place where you hear people use the word we, like we won or we lost. You hear that sometimes with like the Cowboys and things like that, but it's like much more deeply like ingrained in who you are.
Yeah.
It's like it's a football in this, especially in the state, it's a character trait. It's a personality
Well, it's like
trait.
it's people's kids. That's why I feel like
That's
it's
the
like
thing.
it'd be like Izzy putting on pads of being like, oh my gosh, get
Our
him.
7-month-old.
Our 7-month-old,
Yeah, what are we looking at measurables right now? Just we can talk about we can talk about that off air. It's fine.
50th percentile height.
Let's
I feel like that's
go.
good, right?
24th in weight. She's
we
a
need
dink.
we got her on the creatine powder.
I love
we're
it.
Trying to build up the weight a little
But
bit.
that is true. There's it's like your parents are almost like on the field with you when you're in high school,
Yeah.
Hey, we've all seen Friday Night Lights.
Oh, great show.
As much as that's a joke, it's also
Yeah.
go
It is.
to Carthage, go to some of those.
It's
small
rooted in
towns
truth.
and- yeah.
It's rooted in
So
truth.
interesting.
Shout out Carthage, by the way. My grandmother lived there, so I
Awesome.
spent
They're
many a time at the Walmart in Carthage.
Jalapeno tree.
Jalapeno tree.
they're a juggernaut.
Yeah,
They're an
yeah,
absolute juggernaut. They're on the secondary cover of the magazine.
Oh, nice.
So if you pick up a
wow.
copy of the 2021 summer edition of Dave Campbell's Texas Football, texasfootball.com/subscribe, or your local store, please support print media.
Absolutely.
Please.
You can order it. You can get it online, correct? But then also available in a lot of stores. And then on the website, you have where you can search. Is this in my area?
Yes.
I saw that.
Yeah,
That's
we've
cool.
got that. So if you want to look for your local, usually Walmart or your local grocery store is your best bet to find our magazine.
So you're a pro, so you're good at this. But at DCTF Twitter, at Dave Campbell's CampBells Instagram, Facebook, TexasFootball.com. Great domain name, by the way.
Yeah.
Listen, we
No
squatted
joke.
on that early. We were like, I think this internet might be sticking around. And so we grabbed that.
That's a good bet.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and this is our 62nd annual edition. We were,
Wow.
Dave Campbell is still our editor in chief. It's a lot more of an emeritus role now. He's 96.
Oh, wow.
Still,
Crazy.
So cool.
Still lives in Waco, and yeah,
That's too bad.
he wanted to start a magazine. He had two ideas for a magazine in 1960 or 1959, technically. He either wanted to start like a magazine about the Southwest Conference or with high school football and stuff like that about football in the state of Texas, or he wanted to start a regional bowling magazine. And personally, I don't want to judge his decision
Right.
too harshly.
That's
but
not what we're here for.
I
but
think could you imagine if you called me and be like, man, big news in the bowling world. Let's get you in.
Let's get you on Heim
Let's get
time.
him in. Come on, we got to get Tepper in. Talk about Heim time. I think my life would be significantly different if he was like, maybe bowling's the way to go here.
Right.
No, but, we're just proud to carry the flag. It's a
Awesome.
it's a 400-page magazine. We cover every high school team in the state, every college team in the state, and I know people are thinking, okay, so there's 12 of those. There's actually 47 colleges teams in the state of Texas,
That's crazy.
from UT, who I'm sure we'll talk about in a moment, all the way down like Southwestern Assemblies of God and Kilgore Junior
Sagu.
College. Yeah.
That's where cheer camp was. Sagu.
From our private Christian schools.
Crazy.
That is the most Emma thing I think I've ever heard you say on this podcast. Like, I would be like, that's where cheer camp was. It's
Yay.
Sagu.
Go Eagles.
I want to cross stitch that on a throw pillow. That's awesome.
Sagu.
Two-time national champions.
National.
Wow.
Yeah.
Pretty
So,
big deal.
if you need a new
So the
magazine
real
idea.
athlete.
So there's an athlete in this room. Okay, good. That's good to know.
Yeah, that's right.
That's funny.
And so speaking of, we have talked about this, our private school, Christian school upbringing. We were 3A, I think. We may have been 2A back then, but feel like 3A private football. We had my senior year. I didn't play my junior year. I played sophomore year. And then I was going to focus on baseball because that really worked out well.
Sure.
And then senior year I was the only senior on the team, and we had 16 players. We started with more, but a couple guys quit. 16 players to start the year, 23 cheerleaders. And some of the cheerleaders could have played on the football team. No offense, but they would have helped out in our
That's how it
2 deep.
works.
Well, yeah, and that's one thing
That's
that
funny.
I'm super. You got to be aware of whenever you do something like this.
Mm-hmm.
Is so there's more than 1,400 high school football teams previewed in this magazine.
Crazy.
Okay, and you've got to be cognizant of the fact that there's a pretty decent chance it's the only thing that's written about them all year.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure you do the best you can. Like there's no,
Oh,
there's,
yeah.
because it matters to people. I mean, I've gotten some calls from coaches who are just, not very happy with our preview, and you don't want to make mistakes. Whenever that magazine comes out, I always wait like 3 weeks before I open it because I always fear the big one. Like there's always going to be a name misspelled or a comma in the wrong place. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. I really am. We're trying very, very hard. Those don't bother me. What worries me is calling it like the TCU Bears and getting my house burned down. Right. Like that's what I'm like the big one. You know what I mean? Like the big one. And we've had our share of, ones that are not super fun, but I have not had my house burned down. And that's kind of
that's the goal.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
Every year, my wife, she's just don't get me
trying to make it through another year.
Just keep us in the house.
Don't tell anyone where you live.
We were the mascot of my alma mater was the Conquerors, Calvary Conquerors, and I hate to bring it up, but I think it was either the Cavaliers or the Crusaders one year. But
that's really
and Greg and I talked about Conquerors. It's like a quote. It's like a name.
We were
from,
more than conquerors,
right?
From
Romans,
the Bible,
whatever.
Yeah.
But that would happen all the time. And our coach, we talked about it, our coach was like anti-media, which is like, yeah, God forbid, he's like turning away the New York Times, coverage to like for our football.
The Athletic wants to launch their own
ESPN. He's just click.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
Enough of this.
We want to broadcast your game on ABC. Like, not going to happen.
Not happen. So, no disrespect, but yeah, but
we're the worst.
We would. We talked about this. We would look and be like, oh man, we can't wait till Dave Campbell's comes out to hope that our names would be in it. Because the problem with Calvary too at that time, the only other press we would get, to your point, is when we would play like a Nolan Catholic or trying to think Fort Worth Christian or something. Then the Star Telegram would do the scores, and so it would be Fort Worth Christian 90, Calvary 7.
-7.
Just the box score is like, the scoring summary is like a half a page of just touchdowns from the other team.
Did you play at Heights or no?
I played freshman year at Heights.
Well, what? Anything?
It's not.
Any mentions?
I got I lettered. I got
let's go.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, two athletes in here.
There you go.
Yeah, I didn't. I was on the golf team at Heights.
Okay,
that was
I
probably
knew
the
that.
best. I played in a few JV tournaments. I didn't win anything, but
you mentioned to me in confidence off the air, and I'll bring it to the air. That you're going to play golf here soon. This is now the second reference to golf. Can we have a conversation about golf for a moment? I'm sorry, Emma.
No,
I know this is going to bore you to tears. No. Can we just admit that 18 holes is too many holes?
It's a lot.
Nine,
it's too many holes.
It's a lot.
Good.
9. You know what? Honestly,
9's good.
12 holes.
Yeah.
There you go.
I get to number 12.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm done. That's all I want to play.
Yeah.
That's a cool 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I don't want to play 18 holes.
I despise the slow round of golf. I can't take, like, I forget, not to name drop, but I'm friends with Bob Sturm, another local. Whoa. Hey. And we played golf one time, and it took it was like I wanted to leave.
Was it hot? See, I can't.
It wasn't
handle
hot.
the
It was just, especially if you play, some of these courses, they just try to get like a million people on, and so you're just constantly waiting. And I hate that. You're a big golf fan, or I shouldn't say golf fan, but a Brooks Koepka fan.
Oh yeah.
He's kind of being annoying recently though, with the pettiness,
Right. Okay.
the DeChambeau pettiness. With
I'm sorry.
Brooks.
I'm sorry. Are you anti-petty?
I mean, it's kind of funny, I guess, because DeChambeau is a little bit of a baby, and it's really funny when Brooks just like
Tough talk.
rubs it in his face all the time.
Yeah.
But
I love it.
I mean, I'm not anti-petty by any means. I just am like, I kind of hope better for Brooks.
You want him to take the high road?
Like, he just looks like this. He should be like this. You know what I'm saying?
I'm just telling you, in my opinion, the high road, overrated.
Okay.
Overrated. Sometimes you just got to be petty.
All right. You're right.
This is 9 in the morning, and it's already 112 degrees. So I think we're supposed to play golf tomorrow. But I don't know. They're playing. This is completely random, but they're playing the Texas State Open, which is like an amateur tournament right now in Tyler, Texas. And our friend JJ Colleen is playing. He was actually in a group with Johnny Manziel, John Football himself.
Really?
Jonathan Football.
Yeah, and
Former Dave
Romo,
Campbell's Texas football cover boy, Johnny Manziel.
Tony Romo is also there, and for
Tons Romes.
some reason they're allowed to have. I thought this was odd. Another weird golf thing. They have to wear pants. So apparently John Football was late because he wore shorts, so he had to go home and get pants and then come back. So he didn't have any practice swings yesterday. Shot a 9 over, not good. But you have to wear pants, but then you can have a golf cart. So then Tony Romo has what looks like, and I couldn't tell from the photo, but what looks like a Rolls Royce
Cart?
esque
Okay.
golf cart enclosed
With AC.
with an AC on top. Does
Dude.
that change your opinion about 18
We're all
holes of golf?
failing.
AC golf carts might be.
I would consider playing 18 holes of golf if I could play golf with Johnny Manziel in an air conditioned cart
Sure.
on television.
Yeah.
On television. Yeah.
That would be if I could have video evidence of how terrible I am. That's like I just want it once because it'll dissuade me from ever doing it again.
We speaking of, I played in the Pro-Am at Colonial, and I played probably the best round of my life. Pretty good.
Wow.
Did great. Pressure's on, that's when I
When the some people when the spotlight's the brightest.
big time players, etc.
Big time moments. Sure.
And then I've played 2 or 3 times since then, and you would think that guy's never held a golf club before. Like, it's that bad. Of like, I don't know what I've done, but
This is 100% true. The last time I played golf, I'm glad you guys brought me on to your golf podcast.
this is kind of how we flow. It's just like whatever.
The last time I played golf, it was the Dave Campbell's crew we were invited to go play in like a booster clubs, scramble tournament, stuff like that. They were like, hey, come on, we'll give you a team and stuff.
Fun.
I was like, cool. So we go out there and it was myself as the president of our company. And then I think it was 2 of our sales guys. And in a scramble, we shot even par.
That's not good.
That is
That's not good.
as embarrassing an athletic feat as I think has ever been achieved by humans. But here's the thing.
Invite him out, Trav.
The prize for last place,
Oh,
the same as the prize for first place.
Okay.
We just didn't get a plaque.
okay.
But we got like the free round of golf. We got all that. I'm like,
That's
so I would have tried less.
That's awesome. And I don't know if our listeners are too familiar with charity golf scrambles. A lot of times, the worst score you could get is par. So
it's bottoming out.
yeah,
That is we hit rock bottom.
like you literally couldn't have done worse. I
No,
don't
we
think.
couldn't. We could not have. It was. I tell golf people that story, and they just look at me like I'm a battered puppy. like,
like,
oh my
"Aw."
god.
That's so sweet.
Oh no, I didn't realize it was that bad.
Oh, that's good.
Anyway,
I do eventually want to talk about football, but one last thing before we get there. I'm big Twitter guy, as we know, right? One of my
always extremely responsible. I found on Twitter.
Yes.
one of my many vices. Baylor fans eat barbecue too, so it's like I've kind of changed my
Cash
ways
or card,
a little bit.
heimbarbecue.com.
I think that was one of the questions I had for you is will Shahan ever forgive me for the Baylor jokes? But you don't have to answer that.
I won't speak for Shahan. I will tell him that that you're a proud partner of Dave Campbell's Texas football.
I am.
And so as a result, he better.
Okay.
Is
okay.
all I'm saying.
Well, that's fine. We'll make up. But I wanted to say at Tepper, your personal Twitter, one of my favorite follows.
Thank you.
And it's
another value in squatting on something early. Like I was just like, oh, maybe this Twitter thing will stick around. Oh, they got Tepper available? Let's do
There
it.
you go.
And it's like, I was able to get it.
That's
and so
pretty good.
in your face, owner of the Carolina Panthers.
Ooh.
That's right. I forget his name.
I don't
Something.
know.
Tepper.
David.
Oh, hilarious.
Uncle Dave.
It's Olympics and so anyway, just something that I thought was great. You said, and I couldn't agree more. Why doesn't the horse get the medal in equestrian events instead of the rider?
Many people are asking.
That's a
Okay,
good
think about it.
question.
Because I'm watching. I'm watching because I'm the coolest person you know.
Sure.
I'm watching dressage.
Yes.
Out there.
Horse dancing.
And by the way, I think it's on tape delay. So I'm watching tape delayed dressage.
Okay.
Again, coolest person you know.
Yeah.
And And these horses are doing like, it's actually pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And I know nothing about horses, but I know that they're like they're basically dancing.
Right.
Like these horses are dancing. I'm like, this is incredible. And I'm looking, and I'm sure, I'm positive that the jockey or the rider or whatever you call them is doing something. But kind of feels like the horse is doing the work.
Yeah.
And you're kind of literally along for the ride. And so I don't know why. It seems somebody brought up the point. It's very much like at the end of Star Wars when they give everyone the medal, but not Chewbacca. It's like, this guy helped. Like you don't have a spare medal there? Like give the horse a medal.
It's a fair question.
Like I'm not saying don't give the human a medal.
Right.
I'm saying it's a team.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like imagine if it was in like rowing.
Yeah.
Right. This and you only gave a medal to the person who was shouting at them to row.
Right.
Right. I'm sure that they have a name, and I know nothing about rowing.
I don't
Row
really know
person.
either.
Row
yeller.
row yeller, row yeller. That works.
Yeah.
Imagine if you only give it to them instead of like the guys who are actually doing the work. I don't know. It bothers me as somebody who thinks about horses.
Sure.
And their well-being alive.
Their pride.
Their pride. Exactly. Like
their
how
work
much?
ethic.
Like how much do you think? Like we need NIL for horses. That's all I'm saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, what horseshoes aren't cheap.
Horseshoes aren't cheap.
Hay's not cheap.
No.
So this may be a line in the sand you've just drawn.
I want to just go on record that the International Olympic Committee, if you're watching this podcast,
they do.
Please consider awarding medals to the horses because they are. I was gonna say they're people too, but that doesn't count. They are athletes too, and that's
athletes.
fair.
That's fair.
Yeah,
And they have those little things that they like put around them. They
you
put,
make
like a little medal.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. You can like they would. I think they would appreciate them.
I bet they feel really prideful. If
I'm
they,
sure.
With that.
You have to. Yeah.
Okay.
I've been anti-horse for a long time. I just want to get that on record. I'd be happy if I never saw a horse again. They're violent, wild animals.
Violent.
And I had
Okay.
an incident as a child riding a horse, and so I'm not a fan.
A courageous stance.
And so from an athletic standpoint, I can appreciate their beauty and their, prowess, but I don't know if I agree with you. So anyway,
They helped build things for America back in the day.
Yeah,
Like society.
And like now there's like the band of horses, and like
Okay.
I love their music. I've never seen a picture of them, but like band of horses seems great, and I think
they're really talented musicians for the. Okay, shall we move on?
Do you like how I like how you brought me on for like we're gonna have a really normal, thoughtful podcast.
This is what we do.
Now we're talking about.
We talked about Formula One for like
45
minutes the last time. So like I went on the Texas Rangers podcast, another plug, no big deal. And they're like, tell us about your thing. I'm like, well, it's like small business folk. We haven't talked about small business in like 9
What's
episodes.
business?
Yeah.
Dave Campbell is kind of a
barbecue?
small business.
Yeah,
you know?
There you go, there you go.
I think we've only got like 11 employees or something.
Football
that's nice.
talk. Greg Tepper at Tepper, managing editor, Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Let's talk football. What the hell is going on?
Yeah.
Texas OU
Yeah.
have formed some sort of pact.
That's
and
so weird.
how do I explain this to my kid?
Okay. So how do you explain it to your kid? I don't know if I can explain it to, grown adults, but we'll give it a try. Functionally, you got to go back to 2010 and 2011 with the last time that we had a major round of realignment. And you've got to remember kind of why it all happened. And a lot of it was around the Longhorn Network. Texas wanted to launch, remember that? They wanted to launch the Longhorn Network. And that ruffled some feathers, but I think because it was in a lot of ways Texas taking their rights and saying we're special, we're different, we're going to go do this thing.
Which at the time, yeah,
and they wanted to do that.
Yeah.
But I really think the thing that people forget about the Longhorn Network that I think was really the straw that broke the camel's back was they wanted to initially air high school games on Longhorn Network. They had somebody come out. I don't know if it was, I wish I had looked it up, but the athletic director or the chancellor or the president said, oh yeah, we want to air Texas high school football games. Wow. And there was a huge freak out.
Right.
Because they're saying that is a huge advantage for you guys. Like that's, if you want to, in a lot of ways, I think most people were okay if like uncomfortable with the Longhorn Network. But
Right.
once they started talking about high school games on the network, they were furious.
Right.
And so then A&M, Missouri, they start bailing out. Nebraska bails out. This is not in chronological order.
Right.
In Colorado, I think Colorado might have been the first to go to the Pac-12.
Right.
And so then you're stuck with 8 teams.
Right.
They are then faced with a choice of where do we go from here?
Mm-hmm.
It's important to remember back then there were a lot of rumors that the Big 12 was going to break up then. There was a lot of smoke around the idea that Texas and Tech were going to go to the Pac-12. Well, it was now the Pac-12. I think it was in the Pac-10. They're going to go west. There's a lot of talk about that. That obviously didn't come to be. They ended up adding 2 more teams, TCU and West Virginia, and solidifying the Big 12. But the bottom line is that the foundation of like Texas is going to do their own thing in a lot of ways, and these other teams and they were kind of the big fish here. That didn't really change.
Right.
And so it was always, that's why you've heard college football people say that the Big 12 is next in line for another big realignment shakeup. And it was always going to be something like this. It was always going to be Texas and or OU lighting the dynamite. Because if Iowa State had left to go to the Big 10, I think Big 12 would be like, okay, well, have fun. Like Houston, you want to hop in here or something like that? Like, they wouldn't be that big of a deal. But with Texas and OU now deciding that they are not going to renew their grant of rights, which is basically the idea that we all call our rights together. The Big 12 sells them to a ESPN
Network,
or Fox or someone like that. You're going to hear grant of rights a lot. That's basically just fancy talk for like, we all agree to be in the same TV package.
Okay, I was going to ask, like, how can you just decide, like,
Right.
I want to leave?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so whenever you sign up, like everybody signs up, is that it's basically, we all sign a contract. We all say, okay, we give our rights to the Big 12 up until June 30th, 2025.
Right.
Okay.
So what has happened, really under cover of darkness, nobody knew about this until Brent Zorneman, the great Brent Zorneman at the Houston Chronicle, broke it last Thursday, was that Texas and OU have apparently been in like extended talks with the SEC about, hey, we want to jump to you guys. We want to, whenever these grant of rights expire, we want to do that. And so that's why now they've notified the Big 12 they're not going to renew, which means that the Big 12 is now down to, at minimum, they will be down to 8 teams on July 1st, 2025, because the Texas and OU are not going to be there. So that leaves the other 8 teams really in a lurch. They don't really know where they're going, what they're going to do, if they're going to shore up, because in a lot of ways, you know, there's some really haughty ways of talking about it, but Texas and OU are the big fish in that conference. I read something yesterday that there are media executives who are saying that the Big 12, by Texas and OU leaving, lost between 50 and 75% of its TV package value.
Wow.
Okay. So you're talking about going from making, each school makes about $38 million a year in their conference, with their conference TV deal. I mean, you're talking about, if they were to just sign it at that same rate, I mean, you're talking about a huge financial hit that would functionally drop the Big 12 out of the Power 5.
Right.
So there's a lot of different ways this thing can go. We can get into them, but it does leave the other 8 teams in the Big 12 scrambling and with a lot of decisions to make as far as what their future looks like. And let's be clear about what this is about. This is about TV deals. This is about money. This is not about, I heard some people been saying, why would the SEC want Texas? They've only won, the conference 3 times in the last 25 years or whatever the stat was. And I'm like, you guys are missing the point.
Yeah.
Texas is the most, like, you got to stop thinking about them as football programs and start thinking about them as brands.
Yeah.
Okay. And Texas is Nike. Okay. They're a huge brand, arguably the biggest brand in college sports. The SEC, if they have the opportunity to nab them, they're gonna be like, yeah, why don't we just do that?
Right.
Yeah.
And to your point, TV.
Yeah,
like
it's all
everyone
TV.
in Texas, everyone in Oklahoma watches. You know, how many people are watching TC West Virginia on, FS9 or whatever. And then I saw a thing that said that was another issue that I guess that maybe last year at some point Big 12 reached out to renegotiate or something, or to talk about what's going to happen in 2025 to the media networks. And they're basically like, we're not ready to examine that or to try to negotiate, which then the point was they were saying then this kind of had everyone scared of like the
Something
TV
was
thing.
coming.
Yeah.
They'd like to extend it. They'd like to go and renegotiate their deal. here's the only tinfoil hat I'm going to do.
I'm ready.
Right here. Okay.
I'm a big conspiracy guy. So
the only tinfoil hat I'm going to do is that the SEC, I need to look up when it is, but it was recently announced that they are going to have a new TV deal with ESPN. They're leaving CBS. They're going to have a new TV deal effective in 2024. I think we would be naive to believe that ESPN was completely out of the loop with regards to these potential changes, knowing full well how valuable the brand is going, how much more value the SEC is going to have with Texas and Oklahoma in them. I think we would be naive to think that the ESPN was asleep at the wheel, like, say, Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlesby was asleep at the wheel, who, I mean, at Big 12 Media Days a week and a half ago, he went on the stage and he basically said, I don't think there's an appetite for realignment right now. You're the commissioner of the Big 12 and your two biggest teams are effectively like leaving and you have no idea about it?
For 6 months, allegedly.
Allegedly, they've been talking about this for 6 months. Like, how are you, like now maybe he'll have some sort of things like, oh, I knew it, but I didn't want to spook everybody or anything like that. But like, I just thought that was an astonishing quote from Bob Bowlesby that, you know, and I think it's going to age like fine milk. You know, the more and more that this goes, it's a really, you know, the Big 12 was always due. This was always going to be the end of the Big 12, something like this. I don't know if necessarily anybody saw it happening like this or necessarily happening like there were a lot of rumors about Texas going independent, you know, doing the Notre Dame thing, or maybe, you know, rekindling that relationship with the Pac-12, which is also, they're going to be a big player in the way the rest of this shakes out. But I don't know if anybody, that's what's kind of amazing is that everyone kept this quiet until Brent Zwerneman broke it last week.
Which is wild.
That is wild because college football people love to gossip. They love to gossip. And the fact that this stayed this quiet this long and it happened so quickly of Thursday, the story comes out. And now on Tuesday, they send a letter to the SEC saying we'd like membership. That's astonishingly fast.
That's crazy.
So, we'll see.
The Tex Ags on fire. The big Texas A&M
well, I have a question.
Board. Oh, okay, if you
so like Texas and Oklahoma are rivals. So did they like get together and they're like, hey, let's do this together?
That's the other weird thing of it,
which is weird to me.
So
Baylor and TCU,
but they make money.
And
they make money.
If you think of it in the brand stance,
again, you got to think about it in the brand stance.
Follow the money.
That yes. Nike and Adidas are rivals, but if they can join together to make more money all together, then they're going to do it.
Yeah.
And so I think you put that aside for the almighty dollar, which is what this is about. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. It's about TV money. And they know that they are making $38 million right now in the Big 12. They can make $60 million a year in the SEC or something like that. They're going to do that. Now, does it stink that we've kind of stopped talking about like winning games and now it's just like, hey, raise the banner. We made the most money this year so that we can, I don't know, pay our coaches more. It's just, I don't know. That's
build
a whole
new facility.
That's a whole other topic. But like functionally, that's kind of where we're at. Is these are the great. It's the great money wars. And once TV money got really, really big and really, really stupid, Texas, you know, college football programs started looking around saying, how can we maximize our revenue? And they're doing that.
Yeah, never mind. I read a book that's like, I don't even know, you can't buy it on Amazon. It was basically like a paper this guy put in, but when I was Beyond the Gridiron, maybe something like that, but it's college football, but it talks about media rights back to like Notre Dame, way, way, way back in the day, and how allegedly that was the whole thing. Like in the 40s, we're talking about how that transformed college football, and this was like probably a 20-year-old book or something. But
and that's how you build a brand on TV. Is like that's why Notre Dame is the juggernaut they are. Why they don't have to join a conference is because every one of their games on NBC nationally. They have a nationally televised game 12 times a year. Plus 13 if they go to a bowl game. Like that is that is immeasurable. And that is something that they've had for years. And that's why they're such a valuable brand. And that's what I think Texas was chasing with the Longhorn Network, is something along those lines of like, we think this is, everyone's doing these conference networks. What if we had one all to ourselves? Right. And that's what they were going for. It was a, it's all about that TV money, man. And they're chasing it as best they can. And make no mistake, the SEC is, I think Shahan J. Roger, our college football insider at Dave Campbell's, put it best. He was like, the war's over.
Right.
Like the SEC with Texas and Oklahoma is not just the biggest and best conference in America. They're the biggest and best conference in America by a factor of about 10.
Right.
I mean, it's over. They built the nuke. They win. They win.
And Texas A&M first game on TV. Super Bowl numbers.
Well,
right?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's going to be insane.
It is, and I know that A&M fans are not happy because I think they felt like we had our own thing, and they felt like, and I don't want to speak for Aggies, but I think they felt like we went and we did this. We went out on this limb,
right? And
now you're kind of following behind us. I think there are also A&M fans who are worried about the recruiting aspect of it, that A&M's been able to say, we're the only team in the SEC in Texas. So 5-star Texas high school football player, why don't you come play for us if you want to play big time, in the best league? I think that's a little overstated,
right?
But it's not nothing. It's not nothing. Yeah. I think there's a lot of wringing of hands at A&M right now. I think a lot of it is, not a lot of it, but at least a good portion of it is not necessarily founded. I think A&M's just in a super healthy place as a program.
Sure.
And they're in a healthier place as a program than Texas is.
Yeah.
And so if they just continue doing that, they've still got Jimbo Fisher. They've still got incredible facilities. They've still got an unbelievable alumni base. As long as they keep winning, then they'll be fine.
Yeah.
Will this maybe prevent them from going from elite recruiting to like super elite recruiting? Maybe. But I don't think suddenly like A&M's going to fall back to being like a 5-7 team every year or 6-6. And I think that they've built a foundation there that there's a lot of Aggie freak out right now. And I just don't know if it's necessarily founded.
And this year, I mean, the Aggies are on the cover of Dave Campbell's Texas Football. This is their year to really kind of prove something.
It's so funny that we were already talking before all this came out in the Dave Campbell's offices about how like this is the prove it year for A&M. Like this is year 3 under Jimbo Fisher. They have got the team that they feel like they can win with. The defense is going to be really, really good. That's why they're on the cover. They have to replace a quarterback and they have to replace 3 or 4 offensive linemen, but everything else is in place. Like they are, and the schedule breaks out like really well. They get Alabama at home. Like the schedule is really there for the taking there.
Yeah.
And now, boy, this really ups the.
Yeah.
I mean, pressure is a word. It ups the importance of this year, that if they're go win the SEC, and then suddenly a lot of your worries about Texas coming into your league really go away.
Who cares?
You don't got to worry about that, because if they come in and they win the SEC, then they can be like, why don't you come play for an SEC champion at A&M? And all those worries go away. So already an important year in 2021 for A&M. Now it's like, seems like mega important, maybe the most important year in program history.
Yeah. And
no pressure.
If you don't think they're going to be fired up with this news, I said something on Twitter about like, if you don't think Coach Patterson's already like circled the Texas OU games, I mean, it's awesome. I'm fired up. I did have your quote. Maybe the most viable conference was the friends we made along the way.
It was.
That was your tweet.
It was. And we, because again, people get so invested.
Yeah. I'm invested.
And it's because it is so personal to people. It's so personal because we spend a lot of our money, we spend a lot of our time thinking about it, thinking about TCU football and things like that. And you have to separate that from the way that these programs think as businesses, as brands, that they're going to go out there and
don't pay their employees. I'm sorry, just interrupt. But
the players
don't pay their employees.
Isn't that interesting? But yeah, the SEC put out some statement, be like, we're going to do this for the enrichment of the student athlete experience. And I'm like, okay, sure, cool, man.
Wink, wink.
Yeah, but that's. Ultimately, those are kind of the things that are kind of at odds here, is that as fans, you're invested in what they do on the field, what they do on the field. it's not that the athletic programs are not invested, and they obviously, if you win, you make more money.
Right.
That's the best way to make more money, is to win. But these other moves are not necessarily like, you can't tell me that Oklahoma right now has a path to the college football playoff functionally every year.
Yeah.
Because they can go 11-1, win the or 12-1, win the conference, and they're locked into the playoff. They are moving now. The playoff's changing, and we can talk about that if you'd like. But they're moving the SEC, and they're kind of giving up an advantage there.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to go through a tougher path. I don't think there's any doubt that it's going to be a tougher path to get to a playoff.
Yeah.
But they're doing it for the sake of, the number that matters now is not the number of wins. It's the number. It's the number on the bottom line, and how much money you're able to bring in, and how much you're able to pay Lincoln Riley.
And I think too, the difference is, and this is what people don't maybe understand with the Big 12 and why this is even a thing. OU and Texas have that ability. TCU and Baylor don't.
So
look at 2014. Look at it's like, at least in my opinion, it's like they have a clear path. They have all the stuff. It's still that just shows you kind of, OU, Texas, name recognition, huge brand, everything, blah, blah, blah. But the Big 12 as a whole doesn't get the respect,
In the end, it is a committee that chooses the playoff. Like, say what you want about the BCS, and I'm about to make some people on the internet very mad. The BCS was not that bad when you think about the fact that, yes, it was bad that it was only 2 teams. That's the thing. But it was functionally like a formula, and you knew what would happen if you did this and you did that, etc. 2014 is a perfect example. I'm glad you brought it up. Like, TCU and Baylor did basically everything that they could do, and I think basically I would say both of them were deserving to get in there. Yeah. And then Ohio State goes and murders Michigan State in a conference title game. Michigan State? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
In a conference title game to get in, and they leapfrog over them. That's not an accident, guys. In the end, the college football playoff is a TV production as well. And if you can get Ryan Gosling on your show as opposed to
be kind
me, then you're going to do that. Even if I'm a much better actor than Ryan Gosling, I am not a much better actor. That's a poor analogy. I want to be clear about that.
I got an insider scoop here for
Love
you,
it.
and I don't know if this is Face ID, if this has been unfavorited, or what do you call it, liked on Twitter, if this has been unliked yet, but this was a tweet I put out, somewhat joking, the other day. Again, on our business page, because I use our business page for jokes.
My favorite.
Not any business related.
Look, Travis, I'm going to be entirely honest. I don't care if you like me, as long as Emma likes me, then we'll be
fair.
straight.
That's how a lot of people feel.
Yes.
So I tweeted, excuse me, the best part of all this is going to be when TCU football wins the Big 12 this year and moves to PAC next. Away games in LA, Arizona, San Fran, Boulder. Probably more enticing for recruits than Starkville. I wrote Starksville, Baton Rouge, Auburn, etc. This was liked by no other than Matt Wells, head coach of Texas Tech. And I don't know if that was a misfire.
That is that's some insider information.
This is check mark and everything.
That's Matt Wells.
I screenshot.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
So interesting. Tinfoil hat conspiracy time. And I have a million questions, but we'll skip ahead. But like,
you did research for this?
I mean, I try. This is a professional operation.
Wow.
I mean,
No, it is nice.
Yeah. Nexum Studios. Shout out, Paul. I wanted to ask best case, worst case scenario, specifically Tech, TCU, Oklahoma State, if we have to talk about Baylor. But is there a route to Tech, TCU going to PAC 14 or whatever?
Yeah, there is.
Maybe.
I don't know how viable it is. We're gonna find out. The Pac-12 is an interesting. They're in my opinion the next domino to fall.
Right.
And I would say that I think that actually things are a lot more interesting in the Pac-12. They have a new commissioner, who I want to say was like he's like a Las Vegas casino manager, basically, something like that. Or he like managed like the Harrah's
Are you
Corporation.
making this up?
I'm not. No. He has some sort of
Is it
like
riverboat gambler?
he has some sort of like Vegas connection in some way. I wish I'd done that research. I wish I'd researched things.
I know, dude.
But the Pac-12 right now has a bit of a reputation for being, and we don't think about them a ton because here we are in this part of the country in God's time zone. But they have a history of being a bit bumbling.
Yeah.
They tried to do their Pac-12 network.
Right.
It stinks. They can't get on any cable networks or anything like that. And so I think they've brought in this new guy to kind of think about things in a new direction. That's why I think that there may be more legs to an idea of an expansion of like Texas Tech and TCU to a Pac-12 situation. Now, that is not necessarily a slam dunk. They may decide to stand pat and things like that. I would say that in a lot of ways, the Big 12, I think you've probably got to start thinking about them as 8 different individual entities right now. And it's musical chairs. Right. They're going to go out there and they're going to do what's best in their best interest. Texas and OU will say it was in our best interest to go to the SEC. TCU, Baylor, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, all those teams are now going to act in their best interest. Now, I think that there are functionally 3 different outcomes here. One of them is that the 8 teams scatter. Okay. Teams like maybe Tech and TCU go to the Pac-12. They go to the Pac-12. Teams go to the Big Ten. Teams go to the ACC. Teams go to
West Virginia.
AAC. West Virginia. Teams go to the AAC. Things like that. They scatter. The next option would be that they hold together these 8 teams and they add teams from outside. So a team like a Houston or an SMU or a Memphis or a Tulsa or Tulane. Powering through.
Ignore me.
You add those teams in and you reconstitute the conference. Now, the problem with that is the one we laid out earlier, which is that people are saying that Texas and Oklahoma may be at minimum 50% of the conference value, which would represent, and so maybe you're going from $38 million a year to $24 million a year. Better than nothing, but you are then a next tier down, especially when the SEC is making mega bucks, Big Ten's making mega bucks, things like that. You could do that, but you would, in my opinion, that conference would maybe no longer be a Power 5 conference. It would be like that. It would be Power 4, and then like they would kind of take over as the AAC as like the closest thing to the next power conference, in my opinion.
I wrote down Super 4. I don't know if that's trademarked yet or if anyone else has said that, but Super 4.
I like it.
What about that?
Super 4. Heim.
Not bad.
Yeah, Travis Heim. You put the little C and circle it, whatever that means.
If the issue is TV rights, SMU, Tulane, that it's to your point, that doesn't help. Like that doesn't give them more bargaining, you know, for the new Big 12 media rights.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing, right? Yeah. Is if that's why losing Texas and OU is so harmful to this, is that if it was, again, all due respect to our Cyclone friends, whoosh whoosh whoosh, but if they were to leave, they are not adding a ton of marginal value to the Big 12 value or Big 12 as a whole TV rights. If they were to, that's why they would need to replace teams. They would inherently be teams with a lower profile from a realignment perspective. Love our friends in Houston, but they are not Texas. You know what I mean? That's just the fact of the matter, at least from the way that TV executives are viewing it. So that's option 2, is kind of reconstituted as a new Big 12, Big 16, whatever you call it. The other option is the weird one.
Okay.
Because
I'm ready.
Do you merge with the Pac-12?
Wow.
And you just go and say, let's be the super conference. Let's go be a 20-team conference. We know that's the way it's going. Let's be proactive instead of reactive, because that's kind of been their both the knocks on both the Big 12 and the Pac-12 is that they've been reactive. Do you do something like merge with the Big 12 or Pac-12, merge with the ACC if they're open to that, which I don't think they would be. But the thing is, there's obviously some hurdles there. That's a huge marriage. But if you're talking about things that would make you more long-term viable, would give you a really robust, a group of teams to choose from, that would be an option. Now, that's not necessarily an easy marriage,
Yeah.
but it could be a marriage, and it's a possibility. I think that's probably in order of the way that things would likely go. Is they scatter to the 4 wins, they reconstitute themselves by adding teams from the outside. Then, some sort of crazy idea of like, let's just get ahead of this thing. And I just keep going back to this new commissioner, because the old commissioner, I think it was Larry Scott. He stunk. He was bad. He was just not a very good commissioner, and he kind of stuck in his old ways. From all intents, from everything I've heard, this new guy is a little bit more forward thinking. A lot of this comes down to whether or not they can get the Pac-12 network settled and figured out. Because if they can do that, then it's like, hey, by the way, we can put you in homes in Texas. We can put you in homes in Oklahoma and in Kansas and in Iowa and stuff like that, the spine of the country.
Right.
And you can, that could be palatable to the Pac-12. We'll find out. We'll find out. I will say it's gonna be some lemon booty times for TCU, for Baylor, for Tech, because it's bad. This is bad for those 3 teams. That's a hot take, but this is bad for those 3 teams.
You know how I know you're a parent? Lemon booty.
Lemon booty.
That's a good
funny
term.
Little lemon
when
booty.
does this get figured out though? Isn't football coming?
So that's
soon?
and that's a great question.
Yeah.
So this is not happening this year.
Right.
So Texas is playing
That's like next month.
No.
Okay.
So Texas, we go back to that July 1st, 2025 date.
Okay.
That's when the grant of rights expires. And so that is the date that it will happen if it doesn't happen sooner. It will not happen for this year. Texas is going to play Arkansas. It'll be a non-conference game. That's already on the schedule. They're not going to change that. The earliest it would happen would be next year. But even then, not to get too far into the weeds, but basically, if you leave the conference early, you have to pay a pretty sizable fine that, for example, if they were to leave and start playing in the SEC in 2022, it would be somewhere around $80 million that Texas and Oklahoma would have to pay. Now, they have a lot of money,
right?
But
couple boosters.
$80 million is a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And by the way, you don't get the TV revenue that you like. It's a double loss. That you don't get you don't get the money that's coming in from the TV revenue, and also you're paying that on top of it. So, I think in a lot of ways, what Texas and Oklahoma are banking on is that the Big 12 is going to blow up, and it's going to not exist, because if you owe a bank and the bank gets destroyed, you don't have to pay the bank back.
Everyone's
Sneaky.
jumping ship.
That's how finance works. That's not true. Don't destroy your bank.
Greg is not a financial advisor.
This is not financial advice. But basically, then there's no one to owe. Is that if the Big 12 dissolves, and so it kind of depends on where we go from here. But I would anticipate. I don't think they're probably going to wait till 2025.
Yeah.
But it may be 2024 before this thing takes place. Again, going back to that SEC media deal that they just signed, that kicks in 2024.
Right.
I wonder if ESPN behind the scenes is kind of pushing for that to happen so that they can have those teams whenever they launch.
What's that called, like Muppet or Muppeteering?
Muppeteering.
There you go. ESPN.
Yes, they are
Muppeteering.
They know more than they're
actually,
letting
I think
on.
Disney does own the Muppets. So that's
Yeah.
actually
There you go. So there you go.
That's a perfect way to put it. They're Muppeteering.
Imagineers. That's the
They're Imagineering. Ooh.
This is
Crazy.
fascinating, and I appreciate
I'm
you
learning
coming
so
on. We have some rapid fire questions. I know you got to get out of here, so
That's
I
fine.
want to. I was trying to think what else. I was going to say something.
I will say this. TCU has an advantage, because I know you're a TCU guy, and I know this is the TCU podcast. TCU has an advantage of being in a major metro area. Okay. They are a smaller private school, but they have that advantage of being in a major metro area.
Right.
Tech is a large school. They're they're out in Lubbock, but they are a large school, big alumni base, things like that. The team in Texas that I would be very, very, very worried if I were is Baylor. I won't go through the details. I'm sure everybody knows about the details of how they got in the Big 12 to begin with.
Right.
There was some, rigmarole going with political, things being here and there.
Sure.
That infrastructure for them is not in place right now.
Right.
And they I love our Baylor friends. Our Dave Campbell's a Baylor guy. I got to be very clear about that.
Yeah.
But from a realignment perspective, they do not bring a ton that like TCU doesn't. So in the sense that you got to start thinking of these teams as 8 different programs working in their own interest. For Baylor, I think they've got to be dead set on holding this thing together and keeping things together, because I don't think that Pac-12 invite's coming. I don't think that ACC invite's coming. If you're talking about a team that could be at risk of dropping out of the Power 5, Baylor could be that. And so that would be the team that I would be pretty worried about that, because the nature of what they are, a smaller private school in Waco. That's tough. And so that's, I know you take no pleasure in me reporting that.
Well, what a shame. No, I think, well, for one point that I've seen thrown out a lot, which is kind of weird in regarding TCU, if you know anything about TCU, but the Pac-12 kind of shunned BYU for religious reasons. And so then I don't know like the specifics of it, but then they may not be interested in Baylor from the religious, and then TCU also because of that. But TCU is, you don't call it Texas Christian anymore. So it's major metro. Yeah. Does that matter?
Major metro though. I mean, that's the thing. They're in DFW and that's their biggest asset. They can say, hey, listen, we are in a major metro area. If you want to get the Pac-12 network into DFW homes, you should put TCU in there.
And Tech, right?
Tech,
because alum.
Well, in Tech, the alum base, they were rumored to be going out there in the last line of realignment.
Yeah.
They theoretically are close to Colorado, and Colorado's in the Pac-12, so you can do the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia thing with the strings going everywhere.
That's funny. We need to do a meme with your face on Charlie's
That's what
face.
realignment is, and that's what's so funny is that there's all this talk and very, very few people in the know, because what's happening is that, like, I mean, let's be real. These are happening in like smoke-filled back rooms with boosters.
Yeah, crazy.
I know. Money. That's always the answer. It's why you don't like Travis tweeting. Same reason. It's not because money. Exactly. It's not because you just disagree with everything that he's saying. No. It's because
I like money.
You like money.
Fair point.
We have a business.
You have a child to feed now.
Yeah.
Golf to play.
And golf to play. And golf is expensive.
It is. I don't. I've gotten off my hot takes quite a bit as of late, but
okay. Mark this time, and
this is actually an intervention.
July
we brought Greg on.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad you're here. Have a seat.
Love it.
It's shocking. I hope TCU makes it out alive. But it's weird. The thing I was going to say about Baylor, which, you can, Paul, cut this out because I'm going to say something nice, but you win a national championship in basketball, that doesn't mean anything. No one cares about men's basketball, women's basketball. Baylor has a great baseball program too.
Men's basketball is the closest thing to a revenue sport the size of football, but this is all about football.
Yeah,
football drives the bus here.
Right. I just think football is Texas.
Yeah,
it is, and it drives the TV ads revenue everywhere. Is that like basketball and all these other things are there? I mean, I don't want to say throw-ins because they're not bad, but basically there's only a handful of programs that have the basketball juice to really have any sort of meaningful thing. Kentucky basketball,
Kansas.
Duke, Kansas. Yeah. That is Kansas's best hope. Kansas's best hope is somebody says, you know what, we really want them in the basketball. But then what they could do is just say, why don't you join the ACC as a basketball member, and then you can be in Conference USA in football or something. Because that's kind of the way that those things operate. Football is always going to be what's driving the ship of these conference realignment things.
Conferences.
Oh no!
Did you do your?
How good is Ted Lasso?
Oh,
have you watched it?
I have watched it.
Do you like it?
It's great.
I've seen you write about it on Twitter.
Have you seen it?
We watched the first one of the second season too.
Big fans.
So I've not started it because my in-laws are in town right now and they have not finished season 1, and so we're holding off. I love Ted Lasso. It is it's the rare feel good show.
Right.
And, like
Yeah,
I'm only
really.
allowed one feel bad show at a time. I'm working through The Leftovers right now on HBO.
What is that good?
So it is basically it makes you feel like dirt. It's
Yeah.
awful.
Okay, I like that.
But it's really, really good. Oh,
I like that. I like that.
oh yeah. Hurt me. It is very the thrust of the Leftovers is that basically at one point randomly in time 2% of the world's population just disappears. They go.
Okay.
And so it's about the people who are left behind, so they get raptured or whatever. They're all trying to cope of like what happens when
is
like your
interesting.
loved ones just like disappear and nothing. It just makes you feel like dog crap.
Maybe
But
I don't like this.
I can only do, but it's super good. It's a great show, but I can only do one. It was like, and it's fun. I started it right as the pandemic was starting.
Okay.
And then you're like surrounded by terrible news all the time. It's like, I gotta stop. So I like ran through The Office again or something. Like,
Yeah.
this will be much better.
Yeah.
You can only have one feel bad show, but Ted Lasso, a legit feel good show.
Great show.
Yeah. It is.
And I'm excited to see it because the soccer team that I root for, spoiler alert for season 1 of Ted Lasso, skip ahead 10 seconds, is that because they got relegated to the championship, my team is QPR, which is a
Queen's
London
Park Rangers.
Queen's Park Rangers.
Sure.
They're mostly bad, but they are. It's just more sports sadness in my life. But maybe they'll show up in this fictional show, and that will bring me some modicum of
There you
sports
go.
joy.
Yeah.
Because I'm a Texas Rangers fan and I'm a Queen's Park Rangers fan, and I'm just surrounded by sports sadness all the time.
all the time.
Rangers.
It's bad, man.
Yes, we don't need to get it.
Who's your NFL team?
I don't really have one. So I grew up in Dallas.
Okay.
But when I won't take you through my whole life story, but like we moved back to Dallas when I was about 12. And at that point, that's when I was really coming to football consciousness. And the Cowboys, that's when I was like Quincy Carter and like they were terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible. And so I was like,
glory years.
yeah, I was like, why would I, like I was already hooked on the Rangers, but like, why would I like subject myself to that? So I'm a pro NFL agnostic in the sense that like, I love the sport. I watch it every Sunday. And like, I root for the Cowboys in the sense that like, a lot of my friends are Cowboys fans and I want my friends to be happy.
Sure.
Which is, by the way, a good way to go about sports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We take too much. Schadenfreude has become too much a part of our sports enjoyment. We should just like, if you have friends who like other teams, like just be happy for them.
Yeah. What's that shirt? It's like, I hope everyone wins.
Yeah. I just hope everybody has fun.
Yeah. I hope everybody has fun.
That'd be fun. Yeah. So I don't have a pro team, but I do enjoy watching.
Okay.
I
feel like that's how I am kind of.
Yeah.
yeah. This just popped in my head, but Sunderland Till I Die.
Yes.
On Netflix. Have you seen that?
yeah.
I have not. It's on my list. I've heard it's great.
It's like
You want to talk about sports sad?
Yeah.
Super sad.
Sunderland's kind of a worse version of QPR.
They
I
are.
guess.
It's rare that I can say someone's a worse version of QPR, but they are.
But it's really well done, and I think it's like 2 seasons maybe they followed them, and then
Yeah,
I
I
don't
think
think
2.
it got re-upped. You watched some of it,
Yeah,
right?
I
With
watched,
me,
yeah.
But
Oh,
it's like a sad Ted Lasso without a Ted Lasso to root for.
Sad Lasso. Sad
Anyway,
Lasso.
I'd recommend it. Okay, rapid fire questions. I'll do one, you do one.
Okay.
Greg, are
Yes.
you ready?
I am ready. Nobody calls me Greg.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
It's
Tep.
fine. You can call me Tepper.
Tepper.
Whatever.
Tep, tep.
It's fine.
Best high school athlete you've ever covered.
I mean, it's easy to say Kyler Murray. I mean, he was incredible and two-sport athlete. Although I thought, I'll be honest, this is, people were tweeting like, what's your worst all-time take? Like, I thought he should have gone and played baseball. And like now he's like, he's number 1 overall pick. He won the Heisman. Like, that was a miss.
He's doing all right.
He's doing okay.
He's doing good.
But because I thought he was too small, but he's incredible. He's up there. The guy I keep coming back to is, there's a guy, my first year at Dave Campbell, there's a guy at Fort Bend High Tower named Braylon Addison. He went up and he got nipped by injuries up in Oregon and stuff. But like, basically he took this team from Houston to a title game that was, that team was okay. And they also had him and he's like Superman. I just remember thinking like, I don't know how anybody is ever going to be this good. So that's a guy that I always come back to is Braylon Addison. It's like one of my all-time favorite players.
I always think of the Cedric Benson senior year numbers. If no one has looked that up and you're a high school fan, he ran for like 5,000 yards or something.
He's a freak show. He was a freak show, and he was on the cover of Dave Campbell's Texas Football that year.
Midland League, right?
Midland League,
Yeah.
and he the amazing thing about that senior year is so they won 3 in a row, sophomore, junior, and senior. He was very clearly the best team on all 3 of those teams.
Right.
That senior year team, very much like that Fort Bend Hightower team in the sense that like they were okay, but it was pretty clearly the worst of those 3 teams, and he like willed them to a title. He was a freak show, man.
Yeah,
he was
crazy.
incredible.
Rapid fire. Best high school football team uniform.
Oh God,
Your favorite?
I'm gonna keep it local.
Okay.
Shout out to Brian Hewlett at Springtown.
Oh,
Because the porcupines, he has new helmets
So
where they have
cute.
the spines on them.
Awesome.
Those they are choice. There's a team in Mejia,
Yeah.
the Black Cats,
Yeah.
and they have new helmets that are it's like a retro helmet, but it's like literally like a Halloween store black cat being like, "Rah," you know,
yeah.
it's
I like
on their
that.
helmet. It's super cool.
I like that.
It's cool. I love that.
I love, you probably know who I'm talking about, but it's, I believe they're the zebras, maybe.
Grandview.
And it's a white and black, like the Bengals.
Ooh.
Yeah, the
Like
zebra
the-
stripe.
Yeah.
That's
really
nice.
Yeah,
cool.
Grandview. Just
I
over
always
here.
loved that one.
Your favorite unique high school team name?
There's a few. I love the Itasca Wampus Cats. I love
we
the
drive
Every time we
past
drive
that.
up 35,
Yep.
they have
Like,
the sign.
Wampus.
Welcome to the Wampus Cats. Welcome to Wampus Cats country. There's a rumor, I've never done it, but there's a rumor that if you call City Hall and you say, hey, what's a Wampus Cat? There's like some like fable they have to tell you like over the phone.
Really?
That's I've never done it myself, so somebody fact check me.
Might
that
be a
on
road
that.
trip.
Maybe next
activity.
episode we'll call them.
Yeah, yeah, just do it. Be like, what's a Wampus Cat? Be like, oh, back in the day. I've always loved the Houston Sharpstown Apollos. I think that's like
good one.
I'm very big into when teams like lean in on what their team
Right.
name is, and so they're in Houston. The Mason Cowpunchers is excellent.
That's a good one.
The Winters Blizzards, the Crane Golden Cranes. The one that drives my wife nuts is Kermit, which is a small town in West Texas. The Yellow Jackets.
They're not the frogs.
My wife is furious at Kermit ISD. So Kermit ISD, you're on notice from my tiny
Should be the
wife.
frogs.
Ridiculous. Lake Worth is
The Bullfrogs.
Bullfrogs. And this is just how my brain works. I used to memorize all of the whatever, but
Man, you have the same illness as me.
I don't know maybe if this is still the case, but my grandfather grew up in Hereford. They were the white faces.
They sure are.
Okay, they still are.
They still are.
2021. It's in reference to a cow.
It's
to be
a
clear.
Hereford cow is a
Yeah.
white-faced cow.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's, but they go by they'll go by the herd a lot. Just kind of avoid it. But yeah,
Porcupines is great.
porcupines is excellent.
I was trying.
They're
to
the only
think what
porcupines in the
else.
state.
Yeah. East.
Trent is the gorillas. That's great, and they got like a gorilla statue
That's a good
outside of
one.
their
That's
school.
cool.
It's great.
Man.
Right? High school football's the best.
I know.
Yeah.
It's so
Isn't there
much.
like kangaroos or
Yeah,
something?
there's actually
Yeah.
a few of them.
Weatherford.
Killeen, Weatherford, and Cress are all the kangaroos.
That's so cool.
God, oh God. Did you guys just black out too, or is that just me? That'll happen to me.
Temple was the Eagles.
Yeah.
Land.
But my mom went, this is not Texas, but she went to school in California, Hollywood, and they were the panda bears. And I always thought that was so cool. And she's like, always has like little panda bears.
That's a good one.
With the private school ranks, it's usually Eagles,
Yeah.
Cavaliers, Conquerors,
Crusaders.
ton
Yeah.
of Crusaders.
Tons.
A lot of
Yeah.
those. So it's
We get it.
Yeah.
Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. How many bacon burn-ins can Matt Stepp eat in one sitting?
I think I speak on as Matt Stepp's agent when I say, why don't we find out? Because that dude loves Texas high school football and
Yeah.
he loves food. And he just like this is the perfect job for him.
Yeah.
It's like he just gets to travel around eating and like going to any high school football game he wants. And I swear, somebody needs to do like a documentary on that dude. He is the strangest story of like how he can be. So he does this part-time for us.
Oh, yeah.
Matt
Okay.
Stepp is like the preeminent Texas high school football insider. There will be 200 Texas high school football coaching changes, and he'll break 190 of them.
Yeah.
He's like
Wow.
the Adam Schefter he's the Woj of Texas high school
Step-bomb.
football, step bomb.
Yeah.
But he does this part time. He's a banker.
Really?
He's from Everman. Yeah, he's he is very proud of being the only white guy to ever play on the Everman basketball team. But Texas, he's basically built this from the ground up. He has no journalistic training. But he's built this from the ground up, just relationships with coaches. And so he's just texting
Yeah, he's
all the time
awesome.
with these guys and just knows everyone. And can put away the groceries. So
he comes to Heim a lot.
Oh yeah.
Oh, he's a big fan.
Yeah.
We're all big fans of Dave Campbell's Texas football.
Yeah.
The hardest I've ever been hit in my life at freshman year at Heights playing Everman. And I was playing receiver, went across the middle, and a safety, probably half my size, almost murdered me.
Yeah.
And then it was like, now where everyone kneels and oh my God, is everything everyone was celebrating. Like their crowd.
They're all taking turns walking over
freshman high school football, and the crowd is just like, we want blood, and I'm like,
basically get out of the way.
One of my
this poor child with a giant beard is down. Oh God.
One of my
He did have a beard then. That'd
few
be funny.
concussions probably, but I still to this day remember how hard that was. I was like, God, I never want to.
Everyone's always got some dudes, man. Everyone's always got some dudes.
That's funny.
Oh, do you want to do this one?
Texas OU joins the SEC. Baylor, TCU Tech joins Pac-12. Which school has the best chance to win the conference title soonest?
I mean, probably one of the teams in the Pac-12 because the SEC is just, there's the big looming giant. And in fact, there's like a few of them. Like if you get past Alabama, like let's say Alabama has a down year, then you got to beat Georgia or you got to beat Florida or you got to beat LSU if they have an up year, or like, God forbid, Mississippi schools figure it out or Auburn, right? I would say that, the Pac-12, there's an easier path because basically like Oregon and they're up and down a little bit. USC likes to say that they're back, but there's been a lot of Texas energy there. They haven't been back in a while.
Yeah.
So I would say, I would say that one of those teams, like if TCU or Baylor or Tech could get the right year and like everything clicks, then like, I think that they could make a run and at least get to a playoff. I think that's really much more, probably more viable. Texas and OU are just going to have a harder path to walk.
Right.
Which is going to be, going to be more difficult. Certainly Oklahoma's capable of doing it. Texas at their peak has been capable of doing it. But I would say right now, just looking at the landscape, the Pac-12 is the more manageable league.
Right. I saw a thing which, recruit rankings, you could argue, but TCU would have the second best recruiting class in the Pac-12 if they were in the Pac-12
Sounds about right
now. I don't know if that was last year's or this year's.
That would be a reason for the Pac-12 to want to add teams is get into the Texas market and allow their guys, allow Oregon to come in and say, hey, by the way, you can play in the state of Texas. Play in this league.
And I don't think Baylor's this way. I don't know, but TCU is like, they may have more California students than Texas students at this point. There's a huge California student base. So I don't know if that means anything, but should Jerry, the owner, fire Jerry, the GM?
I think he kind of has, like in a shadow way, because I think his son's doing a lot of it.
How old is he anyway now?
Gotta be in his 70s, right?
He's
like
old.
late 70s, mid 70s.
It's probably
There's no way to know. There's no way to know.
All the treatments.
Cut him open and count the rings, I guess. But I would say that he's kind of passed off a lot to his son, whose name is escaping me for the moment.
Steven.
I have a Stephen
Jerry
Jones.
Jr.
I have a Stephen Jones story.
Spalding.
Okay. Very quick Stephen Jones story. So that his son was John Stephen Jones. Who is the played at Highland Park, led them to a state championship.
Really good.
Remarkable, really good player. I was doing the stuff for Bally Sports Southwest.
Okay.
And my brother had texted me. He's like, hey, he's a big Cowboys fan. He's like, hey, I want to go to the games, the state championship games at AT&T. Can you give me a pass? I was like, yeah, sure. So he comes. He's watching like West Orange Stark play somebody in like a 4A game, and he's just on the field having a good time, enjoying himself, taking pictures. And then like he texts me like, hey, I think I'm gonna take off. Like, okay, great. I'll meet you on the field and I'll walk you out. So go meet him on the field and go down through like the little club level and get on the elevator. And we get in the elevator, and Stephen Jones gets into the elevator with us because his son's about to play in the state championship game. And so I kind of turned to Stephen and I go, hey, looking forward to seeing your how you feeling, Dad? Something like that. He's like, oh, I'm nervous. I know he's not, but I'm really nervous and stuff. Like, oh, by the way, I'm Greg Tepper with Dave Campbell's Texas Ball. He shakes me. Like, oh no, I know who you are. Like, we watch this show. We really love what you do. I'm like, oh, I appreciate it.
Awesome.
This is in front of my older brother.
Yeah.
Who is a huge Cowboys fan, and so Steven gets off the elevator. He's like, oh, great to meet you and stuff like that. I'm like, hey, best of luck. Something. Door closes. My older brother, it's like the finest moment of my life. He turns to me like, oh my God, Stephen Jones knows who you are, and I'm like, Yeah, it's weird when you do
awesome.
regional high school football television.
Yeah.
You know, it happens. That's probably the crowning achievement of my entire career.
That's
It's just like
awesome.
getting that on my older brother. I was like, the sweetness.
I love it.
The sweetness of
That's
that.
great.
That's awesome. There was this week is training camp. I know you're a big ticket guy.
I am.
We have a lot of mutual friends. Did you hear fake Jerry talk to real Jerry?
No.
You got to look it up.
Oh, no.
It's awesome.
Oh, I do need to listen to that.
So Jerry Jones used to do a show on the ticket,
Mhm.
and then I think they just like irritated him to the point of where now, and then the
Like
fan
a real,
now he's
real
on
Jerry did?
real Jerry.
Okay.
Real
I've
Jerry
heard fake
Jones.
Jerry a couple times.
Yes, you have.
It's pretty funny.
So they do, and then they're affiliated with the fan or whatever it's called, you know, blah, blah, blah. So now they do it on there. So they were interviewing Jerry, and then it was Dan and Jake, our good friend Jake, and they were like segue into, yeah, you know, we usually take phone calls. So yeah, caller, where are you calling from? And then it was just Gordo doing fake Jerry to Jerry. And it's only about 30 seconds, and you can feel a little bit of the
tension.
uncomfortableness,
Oh,
you know,
gosh. Ooh, cringy.
Jake laughing in the background, and but it's
God.
worth a listen to.
Oh,
That's
if you-
funny.
the only ticket character that my wife likes is fake Michael Irvin.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Because she's a
that's
school
good one.
teacher,
Great.
and so whenever it's
Oh,
closed,
yeah.
it's always
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
always good news for him, or good news for her that when she says Northwest ISD closed.
That's funny. I've heard that one
Yeah.
too.
That's awesome. Greg, thank you for coming on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Or should I say Tep? We love you. We really appreciate it. Thank you for
I learned a ton.
Yeah. I tried to explain a little bit to you what was happening, and I was
Ain't
like,
got
I don't
nothing
know
on
what the
Tep.
Do you
hell's
feel like
going on.
I'm being honest? Do you feel like you have a better understanding of what's going
Yes.
on, or did I just like throw a bunch of
No,
word
I
salad
do.
at you?
I know that football is money. That's
Yes.
what I learned. There we go. And then
Bingo.
it's all about the brands.
Listen, are you looking for a job? Because Dave Campbell's could be hiring.
Hey.
You need to go on
I
the
need a
Dave
side
Campbell's
gig.
podcast and talk
Yes.
about cheerleading.
Oh, yeah,
Hey,
sure.
now, there's a content sharing idea.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm into that.
Start a new magazine.
They had me on, so they'll have anybody on.
It's true. Our standards, obviously, very low. Very low.
this guy.
Thank you, Tep. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
And yeah, let's go frogs, I guess we
Say
should
this
say.
stuff
to
again.
end it. What am I saying? Oh, Greg Tepper at Tepper personal Twitter,
Yeah.
my favorite. But then Dave Campbell's Texas Football, available in stores at DCTF on Twitter.
It's a magazine.
It's a real
we
magazine.
cut down trees
with
and then we
pages.
write things on them and we sell them to you.
Wow.
I know you have a younger audience, so I can explain
we
these
do.
things.
Yeah, we do.
Do you guys have a TikTok or?
We do, and I have no idea how it works. We have a 22-year-old working for us. She was like, "Why don't we start a TikTok?" I'm like, Shh, "Go for it." She's like,
There you
"Fine,
go.
Let me know."
We'll cut this podcast down to about 15-second segments and just release it on TikTok.
That's great.
The only way you can listen to this, by the way. At Dave Campbell's Instagram, Facebook, TexasFootball.com.
Boom.
Check him out. Buy 5 or 6 magazines. You know, go frogs. I will say.
Go Frogs. Thanks.
Now you say it. No, I'm just kidding.
I can't, man. I'm
Thanks,
sorry.
Steph. Bye.
Bye.